We're going to complete our journey together by thinking about next steps forward in terms of growing your impact and growing your venture. A lot of your effort will be put into figuring it out, how you're going to achieve this change in the world. And then once you start and demonstrate your impact and get funding and rally people around you, you really want to think about how to knock this social challenge out of the ballpark, really, and change the face of it and obliterate it and make it completely obsolete. And there's different dimensions to growth. So the first dimension is thinking about direct service, right? How to reach more people. And that we go through a lot in chapter 13 in terms of thinking about when and how much to grow. So you don't want to grow too soon. Obviously, as ambitious as you are, you can hurt yourself by growing too soon if you don't have enough resources or expertise. So it's important to really listen to the data coming in from the field, from your customers, from your impact and your finances, and really go back and fine-tune and hone and keep developing your venture in that really iterative, nimble process that we talked about at the start when we talked about innovation and human-centered design. And it's also important to think about different resources you'll need at different stages of growth and how you're going to navigate the different finances and the different organism that your organization becomes at different stages in its life cycle. Keep in mind also the threats of expansion, as I mentioned before, and don't make these decisions alone. These are decisions that you're going to make with your team and with your board. So there's a lot in here and out there about growth of services and direct service. But what I'd really like to leave you with are thoughts about growing beyond your venture, because it's not just, you're not going to be able to reach every single person in the world. What you want to do is work with others to change the face of this social challenge. And that means thinking beyond your venture. So when you reach that stage of growth, it's important to think, what can I do beyond the direct service that I provide? Now, this doesn't mean mission drift. You have your mission and you want to stick to that. Now, as your organization grows, your mission might have to adapt to that, but only if it happens in a really evidence-based way. Do you see what I'm saying? In terms of, just like you started your organization using data, if you need to adapt your mission, then that would be using data and evidence and the needs of the end users. But other than that, you want to avoid mission drift. But if it's part of your mission, you need to think about what you can do beyond direct service. So this diagram on page 263 really captures that. And this I got from talking to Bill Drayton, who founded Ashoka Innovators for the Public. And he says there's 3 levels of impact. There's direct service, which you have to do in order to figure out what's needed. And then there's changing patterns and mindsets and building new frameworks. And that takes a whole lot of work. And that's something that you really can't do within your own venture. So some ways that people have done that is through advocacy. For example, I talked to one of Ashoka's fellows, Albina Ruiz, who lives in Peru and has an organization called Ciudad Saludable, which really mobilized waste pickers and turned them into recyclers and service providers and helped tackle the trash problem in Lima, the capital of Peru. And while doing this, over 20 years, she helped write the legislation, and her organization wrote the legislation that incentivized municipalities to work with waste pickers as service providers. And so they really changed the face of the problem they were tackling, and it required lobbying and policy making and legislation beyond just providing the service of recycling. Another example is BRUC, the largest NGO in the world in Bangladesh, who demonstrated new education models and then worked with the government to really adopt those models. And so government adoption and institutionalization can be the most powerful, and I think ultimately the golden standard in terms of really reaching everyone. A lot of the time, social entrepreneurs start working in a setting where the only reason they need to provide this product or service is because the government's not able to, even though it's the government's job. And social entrepreneurs can be more nimble and risky and test things out with less resources. And once they find the model that works, it's important to work with the government to adapt and replicate and scale that model. So that's another example that I always like to point to. Another way to do it is to think about other social entrepreneurs and institutions like you and how you can think about your collective impact. How can the whole be greater than the sum of its parts? So it's not only your impact indicators and your bottom line, but really thinking about what you might be able to achieve together that you're not able to achieve alone. And that's why it's important to always be transparent and use that lean startup method that has a lot of feedback loops with both your customers, but also with other service providers in your field. And this includes sharing failures, not just sharing successes. So any data is data, even null data. If you do something and it doesn't work, you need to share that with people, with other entrepreneurs. And you could do case studies or participate in conferences or even one-on-one meetings. But it's just really important to share both your failures and celebrate your successes. So as you proceed along the social entrepreneurship journey, it's really important to take the moment to call it when something is a success and celebrate it with your team and externally. And this is how people find out about you. And it's beyond communications and marketing. It's really that you're doing incredible work and humbling work. And there are days where you're going to wake up and your heart is racing and you don't know how this is going to work, and days when you don't even sleep at night. And eventually, hopefully, if we all keep working together and talking together and thinking and acting together, it will pay off. So I'm going to leave you with this thought. How can we remove the word social from entrepreneurship? How can all entrepreneurship and all business be social? How can we change the way that people do things and make everything in this book completely obsolete? So that's what I'm going to leave you with, is really that challenge. I've shared with you in this book and in this course all the knowledge and skills and stories that I've accumulated from working with social entrepreneurs in my home country, here at Harvard, and around the world. And now I want you to take all this information and make it completely obsolete. And you go out there and you find new models and better ways of doing things, and then come back here and share them with us. So please do connect with me on social media. Let me know how it's going on your social entrepreneurship journey, what you're learning, what you're not, what worked about this course and this book and what didn't, and what you discover as you embark on your journey. Thank you.